Welcome to the West Point Lake Update. My name's Rocky Millenbine, Park Ranger for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the hunting program at West Point Lake and also talking about the shoreline management plan at West Point Lake. So stay tuned, we have some great information to come. Welcome back. With me now I have Kevin Parsons, my fellow park ranger at West Point Lake. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rocky.
And Kevin, we wanted to have you on the show so you could tell us a little bit more about the hunting program at West Point Lake.
Yeah, at West Point Lake, our hunting program consists of around 10,000 acres, roughly, give or take. Every year we have numbers of hunters come out there hunting anything from deer, turkey, squirrel. Of course, this time of year we have deer season in full swing. Both in Georgia and Alabama. We also have had a lot of people inquire about the waterfowl hunting, and that in part is due to some of the shows that are on television now. A lot of people are getting interested in that, so we have a lot of people raccoon hunting. So we have people going for the popular species and going for the not so popular species. Sure. So there's plenty of opportunity for everybody out there. So
right, and I like what you mentioned. You said that we do have hunting areas in both states, in Georgia and Alabama.
Correct. Yeah, we have basically 4 different areas, and they're broken up based on what type of weapon you can use. Okay. We obviously don't allow any type of centerfire rifles on West Point Lake, and that's for safety reasons. Sure. We have a lot of neighborhoods, subdivisions, and houses that are close to the public property. But basically, you can hunt with a shotgun in some areas, with a slug. We don't allow buckshot. You can hunt with a black powder muzzleloader, bow, and rimfire, which would be like your 22s. Sure. Or your new 17 HMRs, things like that. So, but you know, when you come purchase a permit, you know, you can get a map as well to show you what you can hunt with in the different areas. So,
and yeah, I think that's one thing that maybe a lot of our hunters don't realize is, because deer hunting in the state of Georgia and Alabama with the high-powered rifle, it's common and it's legal in the state, but once you come in onto Corps of Engineers property to hunt, you know, it's muzzleloader shotgun really only. Right,
yeah, and that's something we stress, and we've had hunters before, and they just don't know sometimes. You know, they're so used to hunting with the higher-powered rifles that they'll be out there with them, and we like to educate them. You know, we're not going to go around writing them tickets right off the bat or anything, but we will let them know that, and it is for safety reasons, as I stated earlier. The centerfire rifles, they tend to carry further.
Absolutely.
You know, when you hunt with a shotgun or a muzzleloader, you know, your effective range is on average probably 60 to 70 yards. So you don't have the threat of shooting towards somebody's house or something like that. So,
and as you mentioned, you know, some of the hunting areas that are near, like kind of backside of closed areas of parks and near subdivisions, a lot of those are even bow hunting only, as you mentioned, with the different, for that reason.
Correct. Yes. Some of the smaller areas, they are bow only or archer only. Some of them, though, once deer season has gone out, you can actually go in there and hunt with a shotgun, like say for turkey season or squirrel season in February, because it actually runs till February 28th. And that needs to be with size 4 shot, lead shot, or smaller. So even though it's a bow only area during deer season, you may be able to hunt it after the deer season for a turkey, squirrel, any other type of small game. But if you pick up a hunting map, it'll specify it further what you can and can't do.
Yeah, so. And you know, we have you're in charge of kind of updating the map every year, but it's a great asset to have, and we even recommend that the hunters bring them when they're out on the property, just for a point of reference too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's always a great idea to keep that map handy with you, because you know, you might start off in one area, you know, beginning of the day, and you might want to move somewhere else, and the weapons requirements can change from hunting area to hunting area. You know, one, you may be able to hunt with a shotgun, but you might go to another one where you can only hunt with a muzzleloader. You can't hunt with a shotgun. So yeah, you need to keep that in your truck, and we have plenty of extra copies. And you can stop by our office and pick one up. And of course, like I stated earlier, when you buy a permit, you'll receive a copy as well. So.
Yeah. And one question I get asked quite a bit when I'm out on the project is, the use of dogs and with different species, like for rabbit hunting, coon hunting, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we actually don't allow dogs to be used for deer hunting. They can be used outside of deer season, you know, for rabbit hunting and things like that. But we've had people in the past who've tried to hunt deer with dogs and have drives and things like that, and that's actually prohibited on public property or on Corps of Engineer land here at West Point. So.
Okay, so like a rabbit hunter that wants to bring his beagles out, it needs to be outside of deer season.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that's good information. And you know, you mentioned the popularity of waterfowl because of some television shows that are on right now. Are we getting quite a bit of use on West Point Lake?
Yeah, we actually have. Over the last year, maybe 2 years, we've had a lot of duck hunters inquiring. We've had a lot of duck hunters coming here, utilizing the backwater areas, the backwater sloughs. It's a lot of them are hunting the wood ducks, the mallards, things like that. So since I've been here for 5 years. This is the most duck hunters that I've seen. So, and it's benefited us, and it's been kind of a hidden gem for these guys, and they're starting to discover it now.
Absolutely. So. Now, for the waterfowl hunters, for the guys that are putting out their decoys and getting out there in their waders and such to hunt, now they would still need to hunt the lakeshore adjacent to the hunting areas, designated hunting areas.
They can actually hunt anywhere on the lake as long as they're 1,000 feet from any structure. That'd be a boat dock, a house, boats, things like that. So as long as they're that 1,000 feet away, they should be good to go.
That's great. And really the big thing that we ask from the hunters that come onto our property is that they do get a permit at the office.
Absolutely, yeah. The cost of the permit is $20, and you can pick it up at our office. You can call over the phone. The number is 706-645-2937. And you can even get one by mail. You can just mail us a letter to our address at 500 Resource Management Drive, West Point, Georgia, 31833. So those 3 avenues that hunters can take to obtain it. If you do try and get over the phone through mail, obviously you'll have to wait for a few days for us to send it back. Yeah. Just make sure that when you do that you get the permit number from the receptionist. That way you have it on you. That way if a ranger or a game warden stops you, you can give them that number. We can call it in and make sure that you're good. So, but yeah, the permits actually, we actually get that money back at the project, and it helps us do things like maintain our food plots. We have around 85 acres of food plots. Helps us maintain the roads, helps us maintain the gates. So that money is very well utilized, and so that's why we encourage hunters to acquire permits. So. Yeah.
Well, number one, $20 to hunt 10,000 acres.
Oh, absolutely.
With the popularity of hunting here in the Southeast, hunting leases on private property, you're talking thousands of dollars.
You're absolutely right.
$20, you get access to some great hunting land that does get managed. I mean, it's a great deal.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And we've had some nice quality bucks taken. Of course, being, majority of the lake is in Troup County, which is a trophy management county, meaning that in order to take a buck, it has to have 4 points or better on one side. 1 inch, each point needs to be at least 1 inch. So we, in a way, have our own type of management, and obviously limiting it to just shotgun and muzzleloader is also another management practice. So yeah, for $20 you can hunt 10,000 acres, and then you can also pick up your wildlife management area stamp from the Georgia DNR and hunt West Point WMA or Dixie Creek or Lakeside WMA, and that's another 10,000 acres. So for 40 bucks, or excuse me, 39 bucks total, basically $40, you got an extra 20,000 acres that you can hunt. So
that's great, and that's a lot of adjacent to our property, so it's large tracts of lands on the WMA as well. Right. And they do a lot of good wildlife management there.
They absolutely do, and we work closely with those guys. We've actually just recently done a timber harvest with them. Trying to create some different types of habitat, trying to diversify it a little bit, if you will. So, and those guys, they do a great job. They manage it a little bit different, but that in the end is a good thing. So.
Absolutely. Well, so we know that to hunt, you need to get your permit, and then what's the process once hunters get to the area they're going to hunt?
Well, you obviously, yeah, you want to have your permit and everything. You also want to make sure that you have your hunting license. You want to have your Georgia hunting license, obviously if you're hunting in Georgia. You want to have your Alabama license if you're hunting in Alabama. But the best thing is just find an area that is close to your home, that's easy for you to get to. If you're not familiar with hunting here, of course, it'd be a good idea to go with someone. It's always good to use the buddy system. If not, you need to let somebody know. Once you get there, we'll actually have several areas. It'll be our biggest areas. We have sign-in boxes. We'll ask the hunters to put their name, the date, the time they arrived or went into the woods, and also the time they leave to sign out. They'll put their tag number and also any game that was harvested. And that's for safety reasons too. We ask people to do that. If you go in and we get a call at our office saying that somebody's husband or son didn't come home, but they know the general hunting area, we can go in there, see that they've signed into a certain hunting unit within the area, and hopefully start our search then. And on a side note, it's just a courtesy thing. If another hunter comes in, he can see that there's a hunter already in one of those hunting units, so he can decide, well, I can go somewhere else and not disturb this guy over here. So.
Absolutely, because when you go in, you hunt an area, you want to go in as silently as possible and take your time.
Right, absolutely.
And sometimes it's a hike into some of the areas to get there.
Yes.
And if someone doesn't sign in, let you know what section they're going to be in, you might walk half a mile to the spot you planned on hunting.
A lot of work.
And then you walk by somebody, and then it just kind of ruins everyone's hunt.
Yep, you're right. It's a lot of work that could be wasted. You don't know if there's a few guys down in there. There might be 3 or 4. So yeah, we do ask people to sign in. And if you do harvest a deer, turkey, or whatever, that you fill out a harvest data record at the sign-in box, and just put in a little lock box. And if you harvest a nice one, your secret will be safe with us. It'll be locked up. Nobody will know where exactly unit you killed it in. So.
Well, and that's good for your records to see how the area is producing, if it's been overhunted, if it's underutilized, those sort of things.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And as we both know, when it comes to hunting, you want to have accurate numbers to show that the lake is producing.
Sure do. We sure do. Like I said, just make sure that you fill out those record sheets for us and everything, and help us out. And it's just like a big circle of life, The hunters help us. In turn, we're able to put a lot into our hunting areas and create a good hunting experience for those guys.
Sure. So we need them to get a permit, make sure that they're legal within the state that they're hunting.
Correct.
Have all the proper safety equipment, and make sure to sign in the area.
Right, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
So we hope that everybody's going to be able to utilize this, because that's what we're there for.
Absolutely.
We're there for a public service, and hunting, with being so popular in this area, and the expense to hunt at other places, we want to provide that for individuals.
Absolutely, and something that's overlooked a lot of times. We hear about people boating and fishing on the lake, and just going out and have picnics, and the hunt program is something that sometimes gets overlooked. And every year I have scores of hunters calling and are very surprised that we have such a hunting program here, and we just invite everybody to come out here and utilize it. So.
Well, Kevin, we thank you for being on the show, and we just want to invite everybody to come out to West Point Lake and look into the hunting program. And stay tuned, because we have more to come. Welcome back to the West Point Lake Update. With me now, I've got fellow park ranger Dave Scott. And Dave, thank you for coming on the show first off.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, Rocky.
Oh, absolutely. And we brought you on because we wanted to talk about just the shoreline management program, just because it is so popular, and it's information that our local dock owners need to know.
That's right. That's right. Well, we do have a pretty broad shoreline management plan and program here at West Point Lake. Our plan that we've been working off of since 1993, and we've got just under 1,000 permits issued on the lake. That ranges from underbrush permits, 5-foot pathway permits, dock permits, and then we have community docks also. And the thing is, everything that the private property owner would like to do on adjacent public property has to be permitted
Absolutely.
under this program. So that's why it is such a broad program.
Well, when I talk to visitors, one of the first things they usually say about West Point Lake when they're on the water is they love it because it looks so natural. You know, it's not one of the lakes that has, you know, 10 gas stations and cabins
That's
and
right.
everything cluttering up the shoreline, but we have a nice natural lake.
Absolutely.
And that's the great thing about the shoreline management program, because we're able to allow people to have these trails and docks, but still keep that natural feel that we have here.
You're absolutely right, Rocky. It's probably one of the main reasons we do still have that natural look here is due to the shoreline management program. You know, we limit what a adjacent property owner can do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we do allow docks in certain places. The lake the land around the lake is allocated in 3 different ways. The first way is public recreation. That includes all of our open recreation parks now, the ones that have been closed in the past, and some that were never even developed. Those lands are set aside for public recreation. In those areas, we don't allow any privatized use. We don't allow the private adjacent property owner to come in and put a dock or anything. All right, well then you have what's called protected shoreline. Around each of those public rec areas, there is a buffer zone that is set into this protected area. And then also there's some places around the lake that maybe it's steep grades or swampy areas or you know, a unique you know, vegetation's growing there or something. Those areas are separated and are kept protected by that allocation. And then the third, which most of our adjacent property owners hope that they live next to, is the limited development. That gives the permission to have a dock, you know, as long as they meet certain other criteria. But they can have the dock, they can do their underbrushing, they can have a pathway if they want. So having that broken out, and you know, about 20% of our shoreline is in that limited development area, you know, or allocation. So that's why our lake is not just overrun with docks, and even where you do have the docks, we have certain regulations in place that keep the land from being destroyed or opened up so much and making it look like a subdivision.
Sure, absolutely.
Like you might see on a power company lake or something. So.
And you know, it's really, excuse me, it's the benefit of the whole over the single person. And you know, we're here to provide a service for not just the single adjacent landowner, but for the entire community, for the entire nation.
Absolutely.
So that's why it's so important, because there are, you know, some people that they might want a manicured yard all the way to the lake edge, but that's not really the goal of the lake. It's to keep it as a nice, beautiful wooded area.
Right. That's not in the best interest of the public, you know. And so we do have, and glad you mentioned that manicured lawn, you know. One aspect of our shoreline management program is underbrushing, and it's very popular. You know, people the adjacent property owners really would like to have a view of the lake. And the purpose for underbrush is not truly to give a view of the lake so much as it is for the safe access between private land and the water's edge. We allow in most areas, it's allowed up to 100-foot wide area, and it's kind of a swath that goes from the private land down to the water's edge. And you can do some minor thinning, I guess would be a way to mention it. And that's, you can cut trees that are 5 inches in diameter or smaller, and that's at the base of the tree. That's where that will be measured. You can cut those trees or smaller. You can do limb work, 10 foot up a tree or 1/3 the height of the tree, whichever smaller. And one other thing is, you know, we have a spacing rule where we don't want the permittee to create a gap larger than 8 feet between remaining trees.
Sure.
So once you put all these things together, you know, you create this underbrushing program, which allows the adjacent property owner to do some thinning, helps reduce insects and maybe snakes, or, you know, helps open things up a little bit, nicer to walk through, and at the same time it keeps the land from being, you know, over harvested or whatever, and possibly creating erosion problems in the future. It also keeps that natural look between there, and so it serves all different purposes. One thing I didn't mention in the underbrushing also is we don't allow you to remove any of our native ornamental species, dogwoods, magnolias, hollies. These trees fall into that category. You know, and that's great because you certainly wouldn't want to go out and cut down all the dogwoods.
Absolutely.
That's what makes it beautiful in the spring and other times of the year too. So.
And this lake does have a lot of dogwoods, so it's important also for the adjacent landowners when they go to cutting trees, they need to know what a dogwood looks like when it doesn't have the white flowers on. I think we could all point out a dogwood in the spring when it's bloomed out, but even in the wintertime, if you're doing, you need to know what the bark looks like. And you know, you mentioned that only the small 5-inch diameter trees and below can be cut, but you know, sometimes trees die, and we do allow landowners to cut those if they're a nuisance tree, correct? What's the process for that?
And the process for that is, you know, if a landowner, you know, one day walks down and realizes that a tree has died behind his or her house, or even down near their dock, you know, and it is threatening their property, or their safety, you know, that's a concern of ours. So contact our office. We'll come out, we'll mark those trees for them to be removed. And the reason behind that is a tree that, let's say it just recently maybe got struck by lightning or recently died. If you cut that tree down, the stump looks as fresh as if it were a living tree.
Sure.
And so the reason we go out to do the mark, you know, we mark that and we document it in the file that it was marked, and the reason for that, so we don't come out later or another ranger comes out and sees a tree, and we don't want to suspect someone of wrongdoing if that's not the case.
Absolutely.
And so that's the reason behind that.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned the different things that we allow, the bike, the natural trail, regular boat docks, boat shelters, but there's been some recent, within the last few years, some increases in the sizes allowed on those.
You're right, Rocky. A few years back, through the help with our local West Point Lake Coalition, they kind of lobbied for us to change our regulations to kind of better put our lake in line with other core lakes on the system, like Lake Lanier and Lake Walter F. George, or Eufaula as people might know it. And so what we did is we increased our size limits for a platform dock, which is just this, you know, rectangle square dock, no boat slip or no cover. That dock can now be 330 square feet. All right. For a slipped dock, whether it has a top or not, and this is a change, no matter if it has a top or not, if it has a slip in it, that dock can be 1,024 square feet. And the purpose for going up, especially on the slip dock, was to allow for 2 slips and also maybe a jet ski platform or, you know, a place to park the jet ski. And so also, a couple of years before those regulations were changed, also in conjunction with our West Point Lake Coalition, we looked at extending docks. So now docks can be a total length of 100 feet from the high water mark, or 635 elevation. And now that could be limited, as well as the maximum dock size. All these factors have to be looked at in conjunction with neighboring docks.
Sure.
Docks have to have 50 feet between them. That's spelled out in our shoreline management plan. And what that is, it just allows each person a safe area to maneuver boats around the dock, that sort of thing. So, you know, we have to have that 50 feet between, and then the 100 foot is allowed with the exception of in the small coves or tight areas. In those places, we have to limit it to 1/3 of the width. That way, if you have docks across from each other, you don't just close out, you know, the ability for a boat to go back beyond.
You don't want to choke out the cove.
Absolutely. So those are all stipulations that we have in you know, in our plan right now, and it seems to be working very well. We've had a lot of people have increased their dock size since that change, and like I said, it allows for them to have that extra slip or whatever.
Yeah, and you know, people need to remember that the property they're crossing with the trails to get to their private boat dock is still Corps of Engineers property, and they do need to adhere certain standards of you know, the items that they can place on the shoreline and on their dock as well.
Yeah, you're right, Rocky. that public property there is for everyone's use, and sometimes a private landowner or adjacent landowner gets a sense of ownership to that because you know, they take care of that property, and it's important for them to remember that that land is still open to the public. You know, anyone that's just interested in hiking could hike through the area. You know, it's there for us all to use respectfully and responsibly. And as far as placing items down there, we truly don't allow any items to be stored on public land. You know, and that's important to remember, because sometimes your backyard is right next to public land, and maybe you feel that's an extension of your backyard, but we can't treat it that way. You know, it has to be treated a little bit differently. You can't park your boat trailer on public property, you know, for instance. We do allow some things, like an improved walkway can be put in, which would allow you to put like maybe a footbridge across a drainage ditch. You could put an electrical line in, which would allow you to light your pathway down through there. So there are certain things that are allowed under the shoreline plan, and you know, if anybody has any questions about that, just give a park ranger a call and we can help you. We can help guide you through the process of getting that sort of thing approved and permitted on your permit.
Yeah, so really what we want to let the public know, especially those that are thinking about buying a house in this or a house and hoping to get a boat dock in the future, really what they need to do is probably call and talk to you. And you might be familiar with the area, you might be able to give them very detailed information, but at the least, you know, give them the regulations and what they should do. You
typically, you know, people will call, especially, and I recommend this, check with a park ranger before buying a house. Sometimes there could be some miscommunication between previous owners or realtors, and just to be on the safe side before you spend the money and with anticipation of having a house that can have a dock, is give us a call. You know, our office number is 706-645-2937. We've got 4 rangers that are capable of dealing with any of the shoreline issues. I'm the coordinator for that program, but so you could ask for me or anybody else that might be there that day. But typically we can look on our mapping system at work, and we can kind of tell you pretty quick whether or not a house can have a dock, or if it may already have a permit. You know, if it already has a permit, the new owner would have to reapply for that permit, you know, and have it put in their name. But if there's a permit existing with a lot or a house, then the new owner can get that permit put into their name, you know. So that's good information to know ahead of time before you, like I said, before you spend that money. And once someone purchases the house, you know, once you close on a property and you're ready to go forward and put a dock in, then you call us up and we'll do an on-site meeting at that time. And the on-site meeting is a chance for me, the ranger, to go over all the do's and don'ts, go over that shoreline plan. We give each landowner a shoreline plan for them to have for their records, and we fill out some paperwork to get their information to build their permits. And once that's completed, you know, a couple of week turnaround in the office, and then they'll have their shoreline plan, and they can install their dock or continue maintaining the dock that maybe is already there. Yeah, and before we go, we do want to, I did want to mention, there is a small fee. And what were those fees? For a new shoreline permit, you know, for someone just buying the house, it's $400 for the dock fee. That includes underbrushing, you know. All right, if you want to add anything extra, let's say you want to add the improved walkway like a footbridge, that's $50. Water, electric lines, telephone lines, any of these amenities that you'd like to run down to your dock is $35 each. And that's a one-time fee for 5 years. So that's very reasonable for the value it adds to an adjacent property owner's home. Once that 5 years is up and you go for a renewal, it's $175 for the permit, and then the amenities like the underbrushing and power lines and all that, those stay the same. And that'll continue for the next 5 years. For the next 5 years, that's right. Well, Dave, thank you so much for being on the show and letting us know about the new regulations and everything in the shoreline management program. Thanks for having me. And again, we just want people to get a hold of you so they can be correct when they get their permit. That's right. Feel free to call. Absolutely. We want to thank you for watching today, and I also want to thank my guests. And always remember to wear your life jacket when you're around the water.